So this video, we're going to be doing a subdivision exercise that should help you out quite a bit when it comes to creating 3D models with subdivision surfaces. You'll be able to create some pretty cool stuff, and it looks rather wild like that as well. So basically, this starts with a plane. You're going to Shift A, create plane, go into edit mode, tab key. And if you don't have this add-on enabled, it comes with Blender. It's the auto mirror add-on. And all you're going to do is check apply mirror, and you can auto mirror like so. Okay, and all you're going to do is grab edges and start extruding and scaling. And extruding, scaling, rotating, moving, and doing this number. Okay, and then click auto mirror. All right, so let's set up some modifiers real quick. We're going to set up the subdivision modifier. I'm going to bump up the viewport count a few times. Right click, shade it smooth. Okay, we're going to turn it off in edit mode. And we're also going to add a solidify in this case. And we're going to put that above the subdivision. Change the thickness values here and turn it off in edit mode as well. So when we go into edit mode, we see this. Object mode, we see this. All right, and now we can go ahead and just start having some fun using all of our tools available. If we want to do loop cuts, we can hit Control R, do loop cuts. We press I, do some insets. If we do an inset, take note, when we hit B, we'll get this result here. That's a little hard to see what's going on there. Let me try something a little bit different. And we'll do that down. So if we inset, hit B, you'll see that it always is insetting anywhere like there's an open face, it won't inset, basically. Okay. And then, you can use bevels, but we're going to be doing a lot of merging of vertices, possibly. Pressing M to merge. Possibly by distance, at last, at first, or at center. I'll turn on screencast operators while I'm working so you guys can kind of see what tools I'm using. It's not keys because I use custom keys, but anything in Green's a machines tools based feature. So basically all you're going to do is just start moving things around and auto mirroring them. I'll use Symmetrize with Mesh Machine, which does the same thing basically. So that's the name of the game here with this one. While you're orbiting, you can hit Alt, jump into side views, and do this number. You want to try to keep these things from crossing over each other like that, possibly. That's one of the only things you can really do wrong, I think, for the most part. You can use regular triangles, just simple triangles, or simple n-gons and triangles, basically. And you can see, we can start making really crazy forms like this now. So you'll also use a knife tool, more than likely. But we can have some fun scaling, moving, rotating. We can use proportional edit, preferably with connect and only. And now you'll see that we can move around like so as well. All right. And so auto mirror it anytime you need it. All right. So let's get into it. And you're going to spend about, kind of make it a speed challenge as well. If you want to have a little bit of fun with it, just make it so that you're, working on this thing for 30 minutes or so. And it shouldn't be too crazy or nothing. Already 3 minutes into this video. So let's go ahead and just get going. All right. I'll turn that mirror off. Also, when you go across the symmetry, it's going to cut it in half, right? So you could end up with n-gons and stuff. Let's see here. We'll get something like that with that one. Simple n-gons, meaning 5 vertices is what you're looking for. All right. Definitely shift things around. If something doesn't seem like it's working for you, you can just delete it by vertex by pressing X. And do it like so, right? And if you have little hangers like this, these can be really problematic. You can just delete them when you find them. If you got the machine tools add-on, you can hit 3 and go ahead and dissolve them real quick like that. So machine tools add-on is really good. That's what I'm also using. So now we can just go to town and start working some things out, right? I'm going to explain why this works as well a little bit further into this video, but you can do this with a kind of a big plane that you start tearing up like this, but you can also duplicate a piece, or duplicate a face or whatever, scale it out, and just start working on another one independently and start connecting them together later on as well. So if you want to do some things like this, you just move them around, start rotating them, extruding them, rotating them, extruding them, etc., right? Really fun way of working. And it'll make a lot more sense when I explain it and how this actually starts to work out anyways. Let's just keep going for now until we hit about 30 minutes. See what we can do in the meantime, right? If you want to start connecting these pieces together, you can just select like 2 of these, press F. This one out, scale it down. I'll pull that in a little bit. See what we can make here. Pull that one out. No, we won't do that one. Do this instead. Uh-oh. I got some hangers, right? Machine tools occasionally, when you do something wrong, it'll flip all your normals. So I'll in and flip them back and try to figure out what did that exactly. Usually when you symmetrize, you go back and you look. If you see an obvious error, it'll be probably the reason it flipped. Sometimes it may not be a particular reason. I don't know how I feel about that. And then 3 going through there, so we'll get rid of 1. Okay. Take this one back out, rotate it, push it over, build between those two, symmetrize, or auto mirror. I kind of like that, I kind of don't. I'll show you something else you can do here. If the tool, anyways, the extrusion tool. There's another way of using it, I guess. Alright, so if you grab an edge, I want to merge these 3. That's going to create a little setup like that. So, but if you grab an edge and you hit Shift or Control and right click, you just do strips like this too. So, you know, if you really want to kind of push your limits or whatever, you can go all MC Escher and try to make any kind of form or shape or figure. Won't be a real big deal. You can also like take a little section out to the extremes. Try that out, see what happens. Sometimes you might actually use that in modeling things. Surprisingly, if you do a loop cut here, I'm going to show you something that is possible to do, but you don't see it done too often, where you cross them like this. When I symmetrize this, it would get rid of it, but it's not exactly what I had in mind. Barely cross them, and if you got rid of that, you get like this really sharp edge. Possibly. If I remember how to do this right. Okay, I guess that's not working out. There is a way to cross them over like that. It creates like a little interesting. Like you can scale negative, but I'm not sure why that's not working out right now. Probably because it solidifies on. Let's see if we turn it off. If it does what, yeah. Okay, you see, without solidify, this is a little trick to create a really sharp subdivision end, which isn't, I guess, technically correct for the most part. Like it does kind of work. It's kind of, I always thought it was an interesting technique, but go ahead and uncross that. Symmetrize. We'll get rid of the 2 next to it, so it's just a little point like that. So you can also use a crease if you want to throw creases into the mix. You try creasing things as well. It doesn't seem to work out too well sometimes, though. Better off with loop cuts. Maybe you do a couple loop cuts there, and it'll hold it up a little bit higher. Yeah. things like that perhaps. I didn't even want to do this piece, so probably try to modify it. Maybe I'll still use it, but do something like that for now. All right, so you can use a knife tool. Start cutting things up, doing redirects, right? Or quarter insets, however you want to look at it. You see that one going all the way back to that way. Start playing around with ideas like that too. Seeing what you can get away with, basically. Right, but definitely do the little strips more so than I think than anything else. Yeah, do something like that, and recut it back where it was. It's not too bad. All right, so let's do a strip here. You can take something, duplicate it, right-click, P, separate selection, go into object mode, select the object, go back into edit mode. Or alternatively, when you're in edit mode, if you can see it, wherever it is, you can hit Alt-Q and switch to it as well. That's a good one to know. And let's see what we can do with this piece here. Okay, something like that maybe. All right. I think there's one too many edges right there. Okay, and now we can maybe do this instead. We'll just line this whole thing all the way down. And okay. Pull them out like that. Control Alt Shift S will skew or shear or whatever Blender calls it. We can do something like that maybe. And just keep going for it, more or less. Pretty much the name of the game, right? How much stuff you can create. You can add additional elements later on. If your shape has no, or your form here has no meaning to it, basically, it's going to be more or less abstract. It's not until you add additional elements that it would make more sense. So if you're doing something like, I don't know, like a jet engine or something, do this later on. Alt S, chamfer. Okay. You add additional elements later on. Basically, you're giving it purpose, right? And so in that situation, it'll start to look like something. So you can start comboing shapes up next to each other, basically. Just going to bevel these edges. We can subdivide it. Could crease them. Could add a bevel modifier even. Actually, let me show that real quick. See how that works. You add a bevel modifier. You see it bevels most everything. Let's set the angle amount higher. I'm going to set it to 80. So it's only going to do like the sharp 90-degree edges here. And you could set it lower to beveling only what you want it to bevel. But you can see this part kind of gets beveled way too fast here. So I think 80 is a good number usually. Anything else that doesn't bevel or doesn't bevel with the bevel modifier will have to bevel manually. Subsequently, it happens to be all the ones I just did. Except for the back ones there. All right, so this section here, press E and S, merge at center. Right, so we shade it smooth. Control 2, there we go. Turn subdivision off in edit mode and bubble off in edit mode. You see how those ones are being bubbled? So we could press E and S, and merge at center. And there we go. So now we got another little element taking place in here. Remember, we can do proportional edits. So if I try to move this thing out to the side over here, maybe skew it or something a little. You know what? Let's turn that off a sec. Scale it down, rotate it. I'm going to try this. I have no idea if this is going to go well. This section here, I'm going to dissolve these two. So we have just the one. I'm going to try to move that a little bit further back and rotate it. Okay. And I'm going to symmetrize it like that. Okay, so that's a pretty scary thought there. I'm doing something like that, but these are actually quads right now. I don't think they'll subdivide very well. The middle doesn't subdivide very well. I don't know what that was. Oh, it's being beveled. That's why. Let's just get rid of that thing. That's why I don't usually try to do that technique. But sometimes it's useful, so you don't have to go through and do these all manually. Sometimes you have to. So that's the name of the game right there, right? Subdivision in a nutshell. I'm going to take this one, dissolve it, download again like that. Should be able to loop cut that. Yeah, press E, F, do a crazy loop cut like that. That's pretty wild. Let's grab the whole front section here, make sure proportional edit's on. So this is one of the things about subdivision that you really just can't do with other forms of modeling. Maybe unless you're using like NURBS curves or something. But you just go crazy with the arrangement of things a little bit. Twisting your mesh up quite heavily, actually. You see? And we're not even very far into the time frame right now. Make it like a muffler. Squeeze that one a little, maybe. I have no idea what this thing is, but thing now, right? So, got it. Extrude that in, extrude that in, extrude that in. It's supposed to be a jet engine looking thing, but maybe just pull the bottom here down, proportional edit it. We'll grab the whole loop, pull all that down now. Okay. Let's do another plane. We'll have to set this one up, the modifiers, but be all right, I think. Select that edge, press E, 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 all the way through like that. Can scale these out. Alrighty. Let's do 2 loop cuts, or 3 actually in this case. We'll get 2 edges, we can pull those forward. Pull that last one forward a little bit maybe. I pulled them a little too far forward. Stop short. This section here, pull up. Scale like so, okay. This one here is technically correct. Sort of. So the main thing here though is when you start running edges like this, right? It actually represents something. I'll see if you can figure it out, I think, before we hit that 30-minute mark. On what these things actually are doing, right? All right. I don't know about this middle section so much. It's kind of goofy, I guess, in a way. I'm not sure what else I would want to change. Maybe I take this whole back piece here. So connected only, by the way, when you don't have that check, and we had to use a real large circle, you see it does that. Connected only makes it work back down the mesh. You can do stuff like that, right? So if I want to make this kind of like look like it's holding this piece right here, you can do that. Do a little bit anyways. I'm going to scale that out. I'm going to scale these ones in on X. Turn proportional edit off for just a second. You just move them technically because we got the, we're redoing the mirrors, right? So, or the symmetrize, auto mirror, symmetrize. Get that a little bit more like that maybe. All right. I'll pull these ones down real quick. I need them to fit in there a little bit differently. Not so easy to do apparently. I'm gonna try to get them down here. Okay, it worked out a little easier than I thought it was gonna be. Cool. Now I can place that in there a little bit better than I had it. I wanted it to go down further. Proportional edit off. We'll go all the way down here, down to there. These are too high. Maybe they're not too high. Might be okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this piece. See materials or textures? What? When did I assign a texture? I don't know. Do one here, here, here. Let's go ahead and hit // by the way to do the isolated mode. It'll zoom in on you when you do that, hitting /. But you can actually disable that. I'm going to talk about that real quick in a second. Kind of stop modeling here in just a moment. So you can customize your tools, right? I've mentioned this in a couple videos. But I think it's important to just remember, because that's one of them that drives me nuts. When you hit /, I don't like my view moving. So you do key map, key binding, type in /, you'll see in 3D view, it's local view. It's / number pad /. Whichever one you use is up to you, but you can see it says frame selected. Usually that's grayed out, right? It looks like that. So you can just uncheck it. Now when you hit /, it won't do that nonsense anymore. Which is really good in my opinion. Subdivide that, shade it smooth. Okay. We could come over here, we could separate a face, duplicate it, and all that fun stuff. I just use Machine Tool's Smart Face feature. Pull it out like that. Only got like 4 minutes left on this project, so let's make it count. And stick it right here. The loop cut here, and we'll send this out further. Just this one, maybe. So this seems like it turned into a solid. It did. How that happened. Got to solidify on it still. You can technically leave it as a solid if you want, but you might get a little weird stuff going on if you start doing that. So you might just get rid of the solidify in that case. Add a loop cut here. This is why quads are so useful, by the way, because you can add loop cuts everywhere. It's easier to deal with, right? Okay, so we're going to mirror that. So using machine tools, let's do it manually real quick. You're going to mirror, modifier, select the main body piece, okay? And you can bisect it if you need to. Put that mirror before the subdivision though. You can do a loop cut here. Kind of see where we're going with this thing now. Always remember you can do knife cuts whenever needed. Delete things. Get that. Subdivision, by the way, you can set to keep corners. Sometimes it helps on certain pieces. When I thought it would help there, but it didn't. So that's all right. And this is more of a detail here, what I'm doing now. Probably want to wait until later to do the details, but I just felt it's probably look pretty cool if I did it right now. So I'm gonna run it into this area and just triangle it out though. I don't have that loop go all the way through the whole mesh. Okay, you can see we got this going on here. You can see what we have happening is we got 3 edges. So we could try doing a 3-to-1 by doing a cut through like that and sending it out this way. This is probably a bad topo for this area though. Well, surprisingly not. It's not perfect, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So we can inset, hit B, hold control. Do something like that maybe. Inset again. See how this is starting to work out. Just like that, bevel it, mouse wheel up. A nice little sharp section like that. Take this, inset it, hit B to turn boundary off. Hold control. It didn't quite work out the way I thought it was going to. Do a knife cut across. Just Alt S that out for a second. Yeah, something more like that maybe. Yeah, it still ain't that much better. What I really want to do, I don't think I could do at this moment. But that's okay. All right, so let's talk about what this is actually doing, like why this is a good exercise. Obviously, just going to town, you see I've done something here, right? But what's occurring is whenever you're doing any kind of shape or form, right? You're making some kind of 3D object, whether it's a fighter aircraft, a helicopter, or a boat, whatever the case. We'll just make the idea of an F-16 real quick, I guess, or whatever. I think you get the idea. Most of your topology runs around it like this, right? But all of these edges are little strips of quads usually. Okay? So you'd have quad strips going around everywhere. This area. You'd have a quad strip going around here in this area, right? This would go around, possibly come back up, go around, come back up, and that would be a quad strip, possibly doing that as well, right? All the way through the whole shape. Okay, that's why I was mentioning the MC Escher thing, because it's basically like you're wrapping ribbon around a 3D object, right? And so that's the secret to subdivision. That's called your edge flow, right? So all we're doing is playing around with edges at first. And what it does is it teaches you how to break that mesh up, right? So when we look at this, it doesn't look like much. Well, I mean, it's kind of cool looking, but the thing is we're starting to see the kind of edge flows we should be creating when working on a vehicle, right? It has, you know, like if you're doing like a canopy section, for example, it would be like E. You'd extrude it up a little bit. Maybe not that high. Let's go a little bit lower for a second. Must separate it for simplicity's sake. If Blender's shortcuts wouldn't auto-select things I don't want it to. Right, so let's get rid of solidify. This would be the canopy, right? Going up and over. If it was like some kind of aircraft. So then this would have to end up going back up to there at some point. This might go up to there. So when it subdivides, we have that shape. Okay. So it's a really good way of just kind of learning how to control subdivision without the worry of making bad geometry or bad mesh with a whole lot of errors anyways. I think that's why it's such a great exercise. You're basically free modeling. But if you're thinking of it in this manner, you're starting to make some really cool stuff potentially. Because at some point, you can take these kinds of meshes here. If we turn optimal display off, right, and lower the subdivision, we would be able to combine these together if we set up the resolutions to match each other. See, like this one here connects. This one would try to connect through there somewhere. That might go out to there. We'd have to connect those somehow. You can add additional edges if needed as well. So that's kind of what's going to end up happening if you were to take this to another step, perhaps. But also, some things, depending on what you're modeling, it's about the overall form first, but sometimes it's structural as well. So this kind of solves both of those problems, because you could do body panels this way first, right? But if you needed the frame of a vehicle first, you could just knock out the frame really quick this way as well. Maybe using cubes though, if it's a box frame or something like that. But the main idea is that, you know, after doing this for a little while, you start to see how simple these things can be. So when you take it up to that next subdivision level, you don't feel so overwhelmed by it, because they're really simplistic meshes when you get started. And you can see they're all starting to match up, and we're not even really trying to do this, you know. It kind of happens by accident almost. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, if you watch that panel breakup video I did, you start separating some of these things, you might lose the shape a little bit, but you should be able to crease this edge. I think. Oh, maybe not. Let's see if we can't. Nope, it's on cube corners. All right, well, eventually you'll have to figure out how to add additional holding edges, but you'd be able to start breaking things into little parts or pieces and separate pieces, basically. So, and then having them just closely aligned to each other, you know, things like that, perhaps. I would do it after another subdivision, I think, though, not yet necessarily. So, level 1 subdivision at least applied. I think we go a lot easier. I'll join that back, merge by distance, look back over. Also, if you're going to apply that subdivision, maybe do it without the solidify on. Okay, probably a better idea. Like, or I mean, you don't have to turn it off to apply the subdivision, but don't apply the solidify. Is what I'm saying. And, yeah, so there we go. That's how you go through this whole process, right? Also, if you didn't notice, we were doing maybe like the interior of like a cockpit or something, basically. But you create them like a tub first sometimes, and then you can add in additional elements later on, doing virtually the same thing. This is just like a really sick way of kind of concepting things too, because you can see like we're able to work these things very easily. We can Control Shift S to skew that one a little. We're creating like a little HUD or something, you know. It's not so. It doesn't feel so daunting. Like you're going off like a reference image, trying to recreate a helicopter or whatever. It can be overwhelming when you're a beginner. This breaks down that process, in my opinion. Sometimes you got to reset the origin points. And you might have to align. You can use in Blender, you can just, I think it's click and click, transform, align objects on X. Yeah, okay. So you're aligning to the active element, which is the last thing you select usually. So that'll be centered now. Or you can just use machine tools, Alt A, and then align to basically the same method here. X, right? Subdivide that one time. I'll grab that whole edge there and scale it. Okay. We'll scale these ones back out a little. So if it was solidified, we'd end up with something like that, maybe. Close to it. All right. Not so scary, right? Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I'll check you out in the next one. Take care.